Hello and welcome everyone to the Varsity Tutors StarCourse series, where the more of the earth we explore, the more impressed we are. And so that's why we're thrilled to have travel expert and just, travel extraordinaire. She's been everywhere, just about, has a plan to get there if she hasn't. Kellee Edwards here to show us all we want to know about the earth and more. And we're going to turn it into a little bit of a game. So the goal isn't to find out necessarily how much you know about the earth, but we're going to turn it into a game to help you explore the earth with Kellee's help. And so with that, before I turn it over to her, just a couple things you should know. One, make sure you see that chat panel to the right of the screen. We want you to use that often. So it says ask, you can actually answer there too. Sometimes we're going to ask you questions that you can just type in answers to. There's also a polling station. There'll be a lot of multiple choice, fun multiple choice, I promise. Use that station early and often to answer all of Kellee's questions, because we're going to turn this into a little bit of a game as we explore the earth together. And throughout the class, if you have any questions for Kellee about places she's been, things she's seen, experiences she's had or wants to have, feel free to type those in at any point. Put your name on them if you'd like to, so she knows who's asking. And in the last 10 minutes of class, I'll interview Kellee with your questions so we can get as many answers as we can, even though you'll be supplying a lot of the answers for the first half an hour or so. Last thing for you, it's not a tour around the world or a trip around the earth without the pictures to prove it. So make sure you got a camera nearby, because in about a half an hour, we're going to give everyone an opportunity to lean into a screen, take a vacation selfie with Kellee. And if you upload that to Instagram, tag Kellee and Varsity Tutors, you'll be entered to win a pretty amazing prize package that includes an autographed map of the world, a travel kit, and a spot in Varsity Tutors Brain Teasers Camp, because we're going to see some brain teaser questions about the world today. And if you want to keep that going, the fun doesn't have to stop here. So with all that said, we're giving it over to Kellee to take us around the world. And Kellee, take it away.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. Kellee Edwards here, also known as Kellee Sego, and I am thrilled to be here with you all today. As Brian said, the goal here is to explore the world. We're going to do it in a gamified way. We're going to have a lot of great trivia, and I can't wait to get started. Remember, this is more about getting to know and explore the earth, and not necessarily getting it right. That's just very crucial for you guys to know. If you can just give me one moment. I see that now I have some control over the screen, but it has made my computer exponentially bigger, and now we're back in business. Here we go. So today's adventure, we're going to the earth. We're on it right now, and it is by land, air, and sea. And for those of you who do not know, I am a pilot, a diver, a mountaineer, survivalist. I have been all around the world and back. And so we're going to go through 3 sections, as the first slide showed, land, air, and sea, and we will talk about all of those. So Brian, if you can go to the next slide, that'd be awesome. So the first question is, how well do you know your planet? Let's explore that. Today, you'll see several questions, but a few easy answers. The journey is the destination. I'm gonna head to the next one. Did you know that the ground that you walk on comes from melted space dust interrupted by volcanoes? You see what I'm riding my bike on? That's gravel. So why wouldn't you want to explore that? This way I'm exploring by bike, which is one of my favorite things to do, and it gives me a great workout as well. So let's start with our first question in the land section. Which of these cities are home to the largest city in the world? We've got 4 choices here. We've got China, Japan, Greenland, and the Philippines. Okay, let's see what you guys answered. Well, this is kind of a trick question, a great way to start off. They're all kind of right in their own way. It depends on how you define the largest and city. What we're really trying to figure out here is that the world doesn't necessarily fit in a nice, small, tidy box. We don't all speak the same language or even go through translators, and that's what makes the world an incredible place. Manila actually has the highest population density-wise. Tokyo, Japan has the highest populated metro area, And I believe I'm saying this correct. Summersock, Greenland has the largest municipal area, and this city in China has the highest population, period. My next question in the land area is approximately how many languages are spoken in the world? So I'll give you guys a moment to see which one it is. And I can tell you, think about how many people are in the world. There are a ton of us. So when you're choosing your answer, the higher the better. I see we've got some good answers in here. Well, let me show you what the next one is. Approximately 7,000 languages are spoken around the world. The world is an incredibly diverse place with all kinds of people and cultures. Mexico, for example, has 68 official languages by itself. Big countries like the US are really, really new in world history, which is probably hard to believe. But for most of world history, people lived and communicated in small tribes, and many still do. I've been around the world, and I can tell you, even as recent as Kenya earlier this year, I met with the Maasai tribe, and they have their own language as well. Traveling really helps give you an appreciation for local customs, cuisines, cultures, and as you can see here, over 7,000 languages. My next question in the land section is, how many years has it been since the last world map has changed? And this is something that even stumped me, so I had to do a little research on my own. Okay, let's see what your answers are. I see a few right ones. All right, let's see what the answer is officially. Okay, 10 years, okay? 10 years, a decade ago. Maybe some of you guys are 10, so when you were born, maybe you're a little bit older or younger, but that's definitely within your lifetime that you've been on this earth, I'm sure, if you're in this class right now. So in July of 2011, South Sudan, became the newest country. But 10 years is a very, very long time for one map to remain constant throughout the world. The lesson here is that the world is constantly changing. We're in the longest period of having one static map in over 100 years. I know that I've been to a lot of places in the world, and it's interesting when one country was once known as this, and then you come back and now they're split up. For example, Germany went from 2 countries to 1 country. Yugoslavia went from 1 country to 5 countries, and the Soviet Union went from 1 to, get this guys, 15 new countries. That's pretty incredible. Let's see here. Here's another interesting question in the land area. Which is the only city that is located between 2 continents? Now, I know that seems strange, but if you can picture in your head a map in a country that is possibly in 2, or a city that's in 2 countries. And usually when you think about the earth, what is splitting the different continents? That should help give you a little bit of an answer, a little bit of help. Okay, if you're looking here in this picture, water is separating the 2. So let's find out what the exact answer is. Istanbul. Now, I've actually been here. Istanbul is on the Bosphorus River, and it separates Europe and Asia. It's a very unique location, and it's made it the capital of 4 world empires over 1,500 years. Now, I can say earlier you guys were around when the map was changing in the past 10 years, but none of us have been around for the past 1,500 years. But the other countries that were listed are world cities too. Panama City connects to the Atlantic and the Pacific via the Panama Canal. Jerusalem is a primary spiritual home for Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. And New York, right here in the United States, has the United Nations, which sits on Manhattan, but it's actually considered a neutral territory. The lesson here is that the world continues to unite and look for more ways to unite with others through canals, collaborations, etc. So that picture you see right there and that person sitting down is me. I'm curious to know if any of you can tell me where this landmark is. Which famous American landform is pictured here? And it's not what you probably think on an instant. Brian actually got this one wrong. Not to embarrass you, Brian, but let's see here. So we have Mount Rainier, Death Valley, Horseshoe Bend, and the Carlsbad Caverns. Okay, I see a lot of right answers here. That is great. The answer is Horseshoe Bend. The world's great cities, cultures, architecture, and artwork can be found on land. But don't forget that land itself can be equally magical. I mean, look at this photo. And I hope that you guys chose Horseshoe Bend because what does it look like? An actual horseshoe. This is probably one of the most magical places that I have ever seen in the United States. And from that view, if you can go back one, Brian, it is a very, very, very long way down. So I actually have this strange fear of heights, and I crawled out there because it was so high. So I couldn't do it standing up, so I had to sit down to take that picture. Now we are going below the surface. Next, we are headed to sea. And I'm not sure if you guys know this, but if you're looking at the Earth is 71% covered in water. And to be a true Earth explorer, you have to be willing to get wet. And this was one of the reasons that I decided to become a scuba diver myself, because I'm a pilot, I spend time in the air, I love exploring on land, but there is an entire other world right below the sea. So this is another place that I really love exploring and would encourage you to want to do so too, even if you start in a pool, a lake, a pond, and eventually the ocean like myself. So let's talk about water. This was a question that I thought was really, really cool. And once again, I learned something too. So the question is, how long does it take for a drop of water to travel the entire length of the Mississippi River? Now let's think about this. One drop of water. The Mississippi River is so long. So let's just say it won't be quick. Okay, looking at your answers. Okay, some of you guys are really ambitious. Okay, just so you know, it takes one drop of water about 3 whole months. Okay, that's 90 days to travel all 2,340 miles of the Mississippi River. That drop of water could see around 360 species of fish, 326 different types of birds, and over 140 types of mammals. That is mind-blowing. I thought that I was an explorer as a person. A drop of water really is seeing so many things than I probably ever will in my lifetime. So let's move on to this question, which I think is pretty cool. But before I get there, actually, let's go back one. Sorry, Ryan, I appreciate you. I'm looking at this map that we're looking at, and I just want to point out, if you're looking closely, there are several different, rivers on this map. I want you guys to understand that rivers are a major, major force in our ecosystems and our economies. There are ships that go along this to transport goods from one place to another. You can also get on a ship to take, maybe a river cruise, which I've done. They're very much a driving force of, our ecosystems and our economy. I've been to the Amazon rainforest, and it is very well known for its Amazon River. The Amazon is really the lungs of the planet. The Amazon is so, so crucial to our life forms around the earth, including where we live right now. So I just want you guys to take an account to how important that water and bodies of water are. Even the Colorado River has a major part of the United States Southwest. It supplies water and electricity. We know that New York is known for its skyscrapers, but it started because it was surrounded by two rivers and became a very, very important port. So I just didn't want to leave that out before we went to our next slide. All righty, let's see here. So our next question is, which planet do scientists have more complete topographical maps of? So that means, which planet has more maps that can show different mountain ranges, bodies of water? We're looking at terrain here. That's what, topographical pretty much means. We're looking at terrain. So we want to know, which planet do we have more maps on? Is it Earth, where we live, or is it Mars? We got a lot of split answers. Okay, let's see what the answer is. Surprise! It's actually Mars. We have mapped over 99% of Mars using rovers. The Earth is, as I said earlier, over 70%. And it's estimated that we've only mapped around 5% of the Earth's ocean floor. There is so much going on down there that it's so very much uncharted waters. And it'll be up to future explorers like you to bravely uncover the mysteries. And this is one of the reasons why I decided to become a scuba diver. And that's so that I can truly explore the world. Because if you're only exploring by land, or like myself in an airplane in the air, what lies below is still very much a mystery. So I had to literally dive in. So make sure that when you're out there exploring, Ubers and subways, they can only take you so far. You're missing out. So make sure you try to expand your horizons. Now, this was a really, really, really cool question. How many people know where Point Nemo is? Because I recently learned about this place myself. So the question here is, Point Nemo is the world's most remote location. Where do the nearest people live? Is it Australia? Is it Hawaii? Is it Asia? Or is it in space? Oh, everyone's everywhere. We gave you way too many choices with that one. So Point Nemo is actually in the middle of nowhere. The astronauts that are 258 miles above the Earth on the International Space Station are the nearest neighbors to where they orbit over Point Nemo. It's actually called a space junkyard. NASA and others send debris from space to Point Nemo to have the least chance of that debris hitting people or belongings. This is mind-blowing to me. I know about junkyards, and they're usually on Earth, and they're usually dirty and gross and have all kinds of crazy things there. To think that there is a space junkyard is mind-blowing to me. I need to see pictures of this. That's pretty insane. But this just goes to show you how much Earth is covered in water. There are locations on Earth where the closer you are to space, that you're closer to space satellites than you are on land. And that in itself is mind-blowing. I'm wondering if any of you know exactly what this is. What natural phenomenon does this picture show? And I have actually seen and experienced this for myself, and it is like being in the abyss. So is it a freshwater sinkhole? Is it a blue hole? Is it a swimming hole? Or is it a house for whales? All right, let's see what the answer is. This is called a blue hole. As I said, water is the most powerful force on Earth and one of our most important resources. And this gives us some of our favorite activities, like diving in this. So you're probably wondering how blue holes are even formed. And they're formed in a bank or an island composed of bedrock, usually coral reef or limestone, which are very precious and like soft elements. They are super large marine sinkholes that formed millions of years ago when the ice melted, leaving a large hole. The deepest blue hole is located in China, and it's called the Dragon Hole. And if you remember a few slides back, I believe the highest populated city is also in China. So China has a lot going on. These phenomena are beautiful, but they can also teach us so much about climate change, geochemistry, and marine ecology. So we're going to leave from below the surface and go up into the sky. If you guys don't know, I'm a pilot, and I'm standing in front of what's called a microlight aircraft in Broome, Australia. Yes, I flew over 25 hours to be able to go and fly this little contraption. Pretty insane. I'm usually in cockpits that are enclosed where I feel like this safety bubble, but no, as you can see, I'm just out there. So where on Earth can you explore? As I just described, the sky is the limit. So what country is currently home to the tallest structure? So when we're talking about being in the air, it's not just by plane. It's all about perspective and where you are. So in this, we are in a very, very, very tall building in the sky, technically, looking down at a different vantage point on the city. So as I said before, which country has the tallest structure? And we gave you 5 options to choose from this time. All right, let's check out our answer. This is also a place I have been. The Burj Khalifa in Dubai is over a half a mile tall. It is ginormous. It is mind-blowing. You almost, like, your neck can't go far enough back to look up. I had to tilt my neck back and walk backwards just to see it from the ground. The Burj Khalifa is in the United Arab Emirates, and it's currently home to the Burj Khalifa. It stands really, really tall, as I said, but each of these countries that we named have also been tallest or home to the tallest buildings at some point in history. I remember at one point it was the Eiffel Tower in Paris. So we have to love to reach for the sky and see the world from a new perspective, because as these buildings change and their perspectives change, so do ours. Alrighty, we're back in the plane, my favorite place to be. So when airplanes fly from Los Angeles to Dubai, what landmark do you think they fly over? The North Pole, the Empire State Building, the Bermuda Triangle, and I can just tell you guys right now, let's leave that one out. Planes and the Bermuda Triangle do not go together very well. Or our last answer, which would be the Pyramids of Giza. So I made it a little easier for you guys. So I'm glad you left out answer C, the Bermuda Triangle. But let's see what the real answer is. The North Pole, where I heard sometimes Santa is, especially around Christmas time, because I have a very long list this year. But the North Pole is the place where the aircraft would fly over. So we're used to seeing flat maps, but the world is round. Air travel helps us see the world more clearly from different perspectives. The lesson here is that we see the world based on a certain way of how it's easy to make maps and take photos, etc. But the big picture is it's more fascinating, and we have new technology like air travel, space travel that lets us see the world in new ways. You wouldn't think going from two warm places that you would cross over the North Pole, but it's faster to go up and over the top of a globe than to go the long way around. And believe me, when I'm traveling very, very long distances, I want to get there as quickly as possible. So if I've got to go over and above, then around, count me in. So here is a little bit of a brain teaser. The question is, if you fly direct from Sydney, Australia to Los Angeles, California, and your plane leaves at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, you'll arrive at 6:30 a.m. on Tuesday. Why is that? So, is it because of airplanes and time machines? Is it because the flight takes almost a full week? Is it because you crossed the international date line? Or is it because clocks just don't work properly at high altitudes? Let's see what the answer is here. So, let me teach you about the international date line if you don't know about it. The international date line it's like an imaginary line drawn, but maps and calendars are man-made. Many of our modern measurements come from the Roman and British empires with Europe in the middle. So we're here to find ways to simplify a complicated world. So we literally drew an imaginary line down the middle of the Pacific Ocean to determine what day and what time it is. The function of the world is getting more and more connected. Hundreds of years ago, it didn't matter if people in LA knew what time it was in Sydney, because let's just be honest, people weren't able to necessarily traverse and travel across the world like we have the access to do today. So the journey would take months to get there. But now with flights and Zoom calls like this one, and I definitely needed to know what time it was today to get on this, we need tools to help us organize a world that's more connected than ever. So we're leaving from the tall buildings, we're leaving from the sky, and we're really going out there in the air to space. Now, this photo shows the Earth rising above the moon's Compton crater. What is that large brown area that we see on the upper right side of the Earth? I'm going to give you a moment to spot it. It's pretty big. It's brown. It's right there. What do you think that could possibly be? Is it the Australian outback, the Sahara Desert, the Himalayan mountains, or the Indian Ocean? Okay, let's see what the answer is. I was hoping that you saw all of that dirt and just said, you know what, dirt close to sand pretty much. It's sand. It's a desert. This is the Sahara Desert. And the Sahara Desert covers, oh my, parts of 11 countries in North Africa. And from space, it's just one giant geographic feature. Those who have seen the Earth from space agree. It's beautiful, it's fragile, it's our planet. It's ours to explore, to protect, and absolutely to share. I just wanted to make sure that I, ended on a high note, because as you can see, by land, air, and sea, the world is the most spectacular space and place to explore. And it allows you to get to know things that you're interested in. So maybe, you want to go to space and be an astronaut. Maybe you want to see what's on land and possibly become an archaeologist and dig up parts of the earth to discover dinosaurs or artifacts or lost cities. Or maybe you want to be like Jacques Cousteau and explore the sea. There are so many ways to explore our earth, and I really, really hope that you guys find something that interests you and make sure that you dig in literally.
Thank you, Guy. We're gonna have a run on shovels. We should have made shovels the prize if we're digging in literally. But hey, thank you so much for just a whirlwind trip around the world and so many cool facts. Also, thank you for pointing out that I got one of those wrong earlier. But that was the point, right? The journey is the destination. If you've never gotten lost, you probably haven't seen all the cool things you could have seen. So I'll take that as a point of pride that I got one wrong and working with you to put this together. Hey, everybody out there, you guys have been answering a lot of Kellee's questions. We're going to put her on the hot seat in a second and have her answer your questions. So a couple reminders at this point. One, let's make sure that you guys keep your questions coming in. You've had some great ones. So now we'll see if, and actually yours aren't, they're not, you haven't had many trick questions. I'm not inviting those, but so I don't think we're going to stump Kellee, but we will find out some of the benefit of her travels and other things we want to know about. So keep your questions coming in, but now's that time. We told you to have a camera nearby. So get yourself ready to lean into the screen. I'll turn it back to Kellee in just a second. We'll get a picture with her. If you upload it to Instagram, tag Varsity Tutors and Kellee at KelleeSatGo. We'll have the official handles up on a slide on the way out. You'll be entered to win a spot in Varsity Tutors Brain Teasers Camp. If you like answering interesting questions and broadening your mind, you'll love that. With Brain Teasers Club, I think it's a camp club this coming fall. Also an autograph world map and a travel kit so that you can go out and explore. So hopefully that gave everybody time to get those cameras ready. Kellee, I'm going to turn it back full screen to you, and everybody, let's get those pictures. All right, can't wait to see all those pictures up on Instagram, and so you guys know too. We'll make sure if you didn't get the perfect picture in the moment, there'll be plenty of opportunities because Kellee's animated when she gets to talk about traveling the world and everything. So I'll have her full screen for when she's answering questions. So keep those cameras handy if you want to make sure you get the perfect one if you haven't quite yet. And again, we'll have those official handles up in just I was gonna say just a moment, in about 10 minutes when we're taking off. So Kellee, a lot of questions. One that's probably you get all the time, and I'm sure it might be one of the hardest ones to answer is, what's your favorite place you've ever been?
My favorite place that I have ever been, I've decided to come up with one answer, and it is some place that I just came back from, and it is Alaska. The state of Alaska has officially become my favorite place to travel, and people are probably wondering why that is. First of all, have you guys seen Alaska on a map? It is huge. So that means that the adventures are endless. Everything that I love to do, from exploring by land to being in the water or flying, is done in Alaska. As a pilot, I am not alone in Alaska. Alaska has the highest ratio of pilots to residents anywhere in the world. There are, I believe, 11,000 pilots and possibly, I think, maybe 600,000 residents. So that is a very high percentage. People fly a lot more than they probably own cars, because in the winters, all the roads close down. So it's probably best to have an airplane so that you can get around. So I love the fact that I can fly and look at the various beautiful, rugged landscapes of Alaska. They have so much different type of wildlife, from ginormous moose to black and brown bears, to salmon that are fishing up or swimming up the streams. Even you can go scuba diving there. You definitely need a dry suit because the water is usually cold. I went in the summer, which is currently right now, and I still had on a jacket. So you're never super hot, you're always comfortable, or you're freezing. And so I just decided that Alaska is that place because it offers me all of the adventures. And there's so many more things that I still have to do. So I plan on, hopefully throughout my lifetime, I'll probably go to Alaska a good 20 times because there's at least 13 more adventures to do from the 7 that I've already done.
That's amazing. Well, that's really cool to hear that, it's not necessarily close to where everybody is, but it is in the States. You probably don't need a passport to get there. So, there's a great, big, exciting world out there. And one of the, based on your expert opinion, having been just about everywhere, that's a great place to know. But while we're doing geography trivia, did everybody out there know that actually when the U.S. bought Alaska from Russia, they called it Seward's Folly. It was Seward was the Secretary of State, and actually, people were making fun of him, sort of like, why would we ever want this? And Seward laughs last through Kellee. So that's great to hear. Now, on that note, lots of we went through a whole bunch of fun travel and geography trivia. Is there a favorite? I say favorite fun fact, but I'll give you kind of a couple of angles at this. Is there a favorite fun fact about the world that you don't think most people know? Is there a most surprising thing that you learned that was most mind-blowing? What stands out to you as just one of the most fascinating things you've learned about the world that might have been counterintuitive in some way?
I think it kind of comes down to language. A lot of words, and this is something that we covered in my last class, but a lot of words like hi, goodbye, no, yes, food types, they translate across multiple cultures and languages. And so I found that, I can learn a couple of words from a few countries that I like to go to, and they kind of all have that same meaning. So that's kind of been a lifesaver for me to know that, okay, let's say I'm in Italy, and I'm thinking about, I want a sandwich or, some bread and some olive oil and vinegar, which they're really famous for. You dip your bread in maybe you guys don't like that because you guys are probably not even eating your vegetables right now. But as an adult, you want bread and oil and vinegar. And so you dip it in there. Now, if I want, bread means pan, and panettari is also where you can go and get bread over in Italy. But pan also means like bread in Spanish. So that's like one word, very easy to translate. And if you see it, you know what it is. So I think language has been like the most surprising thing to me, especially when we are learning that there are over 7,000 languages, how you'll find some of these words translate very well to help you as you navigate.
That is really cool. I think to your point, kind of toward the end about, how connected the world is, I guess not even toward the end, throughout, talking about, all the world cities like Istanbul and Panama, the Panama Canal and all those things. Like the world has tried to connect a lot. And so there are a lot more similarities than differences. And I think that's one of the great reasons to travel is to just kind of get to see how similar you are to people all across the world, how similar their languages are, games, all those kind of things. Which leads me to another question then, do you know how many countries you've been to? And I'll make it a two-part. I don't know if you know to the exact number, and which of the countries you haven't been to is next.
Oh. So I think I've counted, I think I'm possibly at 71 now. I think I'm at 71 countries. And there are plenty, because there are 195 or 197 or 6, depending on who you ask. So there are so many places that I would love to still go. I'm actually going to focus more so than a country, a continent. I've got to get down to Antarctica. It is like on my bucket list, and it is a really hard place to get to. So I want to start with that continent. But if I'm going to think about countries, some places that I would love to go that I haven't been, I would love to go to Borneo, which is I think you can find like every creature in the world in this like massive ecological ecosystem with like things that are probably still not discovered yet. And I would also like to go, now don't laugh at me guys, but this is more of a city. I need to go to British Columbia in Canada. I've been to Canada before, but it's so beautiful out there. I'm an outdoorsy woman, so I love to spend time in the great outdoors, and I have yet to be there. So maybe it's not countries per se. I'm thinking about cities and continents at this point.
Excellent. Well, like you mentioned in that first one about largest city, there's so many different ways to divide up the world. You think it's, just like clinically organized. It's, it just kind of evolved. And so you can have a place like, I think it was Sermersooq, Greenland, which is, bigger than most states and whatever, and it's considered one city. So yeah, I think you're very well within your element to be able to say it like, I'm not thinking about it in exactly that delineation, because there's so many ways to organize the world. Hey, I know we had it up on a slide, but I actually, my mind was blown when we were talking, a couple months ago, and you mentioned the concept of a blue hole. Can you just tell us, a lot of people were pretty fascinated by that. I know I was too, what it was like diving in a blue hole. How do you get to one? Just tell us about that experience, because I think that's so cool.
Yeah, so the blue hole is the way that I have ever felt the potential of what space would feel like. As you could see from that photo, it was dark blue. So once you descend into it, the deeper that you get, and I'm an advanced open water diver, so I can go down to 100 feet, the darker it gets, right? And you literally feel like you're just floating in space. Your feet are not going to touch the ground at any point. So the only thing that you are able to do is to float. And being surrounded by dark blue water without ever touching anything, or necessarily like your feet touching the ground, or being able to necessarily touch the sides because they're so huge. That was just mind blowing for me. And, if I'm being honest, when I first, was descending, buoyancy is a very important thing in scuba diving. And buoyancy is when you have on that vest that you see us on and we have air in it, like it helps you stay level and comfortable. I was constantly fixing my air to raise me up a little bit, lower a little bit, just trying to just find my footing, because there was nothing to necessarily connect to, like when I do my normal scuba diving. It's like, okay, there's 30 feet down, I'm going to descend, here's the ocean floor, here I am, if I need to stand up, I can do so. But in a blue hole, none of that happens. So you're literally floating in space that is water, that is the ocean. And so it is mind-blowing.
That's incredible. Yeah, it just doesn't seem like things like, I don't say should exist as like a judgment call, but just like, it is amazing how many places in the world are just sort of, you think you've been around a little bit, you've lived on this planet your whole life, you understand everything. And there are a lot of, kind of like you mentioned, with one of those questions too, that, there are so many things that we haven't discovered yet, particularly when it comes to water, because, so much of the earth is water, and we haven't really explored a ton of it. So, hey, speaking of danger, you mentioned being afraid of heights, but then you've also been to all these cool places. A couple people were mentioning that they are a little bit afraid of heights too, but would love to be able to go up to the top of the Burj Khalifa or the Willis Tower, the Empire State Building, or one of those cool ones here. Would love to be able to feel confident standing at the edge of cliffs somewhere, or tops of mountains. What do you do to combat that as you go on these crazy adventures?
So, my favorite quote I always say is, everything you want is on the other side of fear. The reason why I've been able to explore so much of the earth is that I do it scared. My fear of heights did not stop me from becoming a pilot and being in the sky. When I have to go to places that are really high and there's nothing like necessarily around to keep me in place, I'm extremely, extremely careful. The horseshoe bend photo, I scooted out there, you guys. Like, you don't have to, you can take risks, but you can be careful with the risks you take. So if you want to go to the edge of something, scoot out. If you're not comfortable, get as close as you can, and you still have accomplished that fear by going closer to the edge than you had ever done before. So I always keep these things in mind. And I'm also a huge fan of anything that has a window in it, like the Burj Khalifa. You can go up to that window, you can lean on it, it's not going to pop out. Even in Chicago, they have a place that you can go, and the windows, you lay on them and they move out. So you're tilted over the city. Those are the ways that I love to like challenge myself, because at the end of the day, I have protection over me. So that protection gives me that moment to just test myself. So I'll go from like the protected glass situation to like, okay, maybe the next step is going to like the Grand Canyon or Horseshoe Bend without a glass there and scooting out. Like, don't ever feel forced to overcome your fears, but always take one step closer to accomplishing what that is. And no judgment if you never step to an edge. It's all good. I do these things because I feel better after I've done it. And it's like, okay, on to the next thing. Next thing you know, I'm jumping out of planes, and it's just like willy-nilly.
Yeah, I really love that advice too. Just, it's a little more every day. You don't have to shatter your comfort zone to be growing. You can take, little steps to get there. And I think that maybe kind of leads to, if we've got time for one more question to you, how did you, decide? We had a lot of questions about you and just becoming this world explorer you are and all that. How did you decide you wanted to see the world? How did you kind of build up to being able to see? You said 71 countries and you've been in all these kind of crazy places. Sort of, how did you decide you wanted to do what you're doing, and then how did it come from broadening your horizons one step at a time to all of a sudden being one of the foremost experts on what's out in the world?
Well, I started from living on the south side of Chicago and raised in San Bernardino, California. And I just remember the first time coming from a big city and leaving that big city. And the only thing I was familiar with were like buildings and, concrete and sidewalks and, a glimpse of Lake Michigan. When I left from Chicago to California, it was the first time I ever saw mountains and ever saw a desert. And I was just like, my mind was blown as a small child that there was so much beyond the city that I knew. And I knew in that moment as a kid that I wanted to become an explorer. When I saw the mountains for the first time, I thought that they were buried brontosauruses. You know how they have that big hump? I thought that's what mountains were. And I remember my mother telling me, no, Kellee, those are called mountains. And I'm like, oh, wow, mountains. It was the first time I had heard of that word and actually seeing what it was. And also in that moment, I said, I wonder if people can go to the top of it. And as an adult, I do mountaineering. And so it went from that vision of seeing things that were in front of me that I wanted to explore and that I was curious about. I think curiosity is the key here. I tell people all the time, if it scares you or not, if you're the least bit curious about it, go find out about it. The world is here for a reason. There are always new discoveries. There's always new developments. And there's so much that we, myself and everyone on this call, you guys can discover the next big thing. And the way to do that is to allow your curiosity to lead the way, because you never know where you'll end up. Hey, you never know. You might be teaching this class and I'll be in your seminar one day.
I love that. Curiosity is the key. It's just kind of always learning, always, if you're curious about anything and you want to find out more, it kind of goes to your point about you can inch out. You don't have to go all the way to the edge, but just kind of, questions, asking questions kind of leads to more questions, leads to wanting to know more. And so I think that's a great place to end on. Fortunately, we're going to put up the, and actually I'll do that right now, the Instagram handles here to be able to tag to win the contest. And I say that's kind of a perfect segue here, because if you follow Kellee on Kellee Set Go, you will find some more answers to all your questions about what's exotic and exciting out in the world. Obviously, if you take go through Brain Teasers Club this fall with Varsity Tutors or other classes and clubs, you can satisfy that curiosity, make yourself a little bit better every day, and continue to learn. So there's information on your screen right now if you want to learn more about the after school clubs here at Varsity Tutors this fall to be be able to satisfy that curiosity. Here are the Instagram handles to tag if you get those photos up and want to enter the contest to win travel kit, autograph map, and a spot in Brain Teasers Club this fall. Kellee, huge thanks as always. It's always so enlightening, but just like so much fun hearing about your perspective on the world and all the amazing things you know. So thanks for sharing all of your insight and expertise with us. Thanks to all of you out there for such great questions. In advance for those pictures, we look forward to checking out, and we'll see everybody back here soon.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys. See you later.